What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about how we built a raised garden bed out of recycled barrels. Let's jump into it. What you're going to need: at least one barrel, maybe two. 2x. I would recommend not using 2x2, but a 2x4, 2x6, whatever you have around. You could even get away with using a 2x3 if you wanted to go real cheap. 1x4, 1x2 might work, but I would recommend a 1x4. For all of the wood lengths, you'll have to calculate that out based off of the size of build you make, and we'll show how to do that. The first thing we're going to have to do is split our barrels. There's a natural seam in the barrel, but that natural seam, if you cut down it, you don't have to mark anything, but you will cut the plugs for your bungholes. So if you don't care if you're going to do that and you're going to glue those back in place, the halves, that's fine, but we didn't want to do that way, so we're going to show you how to split it the other way. What we're going to do here is measure the width of this barrel. You're going to take that width measurement and cut that in half and mark your half mark perpendicular to your seam line. Next, using a square up to your seam line and mark out your line halfway across the barrel. Repeat the step on the other side to have a mark all across the whole top of the barrel. Then we're going to flip it over, and on the other side we're going to measure it again and take that dimension and cut that in half for the mark again, because this bottom side is going to be smaller than the top side. It just has a natural little taper to the bottom of it, so we just want to make sure that we remeasure this and get a new number. Again, we're going to square up on the seam and draw our lines. Next, we're going to use a larger square. If you don't have one, you could use a big piece of wood here, 2x or something, and line it up to your marking on the top of your barrel and the bottom of your barrel, and then draw a line across the whole barrel. Flip it over and repeat these steps. It does help to have somebody holding the one side while you're marking it. Next, we're going to cut it. Now you can cut it with different things. We're cutting it with a circular saw. You could use a Sawzall or something of that nature. You just have to be careful entering and exiting. Again, this does help if you have two people, just so you can hold the barrel steady while you're sawing on it. Just keep working your way around this barrel.
Will I wait for what's left when I'm not on the bench? I'm just spread across the ground, making friends with cement. Hoping that the bus will miss me when it comes my way. Well, I made a few jokes, they said they were funny. I tried to force a smile, but they said it was ugly. I tried to make a friend, but one was a friend to me. Well, I stand in front of here, look at myself and I don't make a sound. My eyes scream out help and I start to struggle to hold myself back. Thrust in my head, straight through the glass. I'm tired of falling.
Once you've finished cutting the barrel, you will have burrs that are left. That's excess pieces of material that you don't want there, so you're going to have to get those off of there. You can use different things like deburr tools. Now, we are actually using a deburr tool to cut these off. If you don't have one, obviously you can use a knife of some kind. Additionally, you could use a file. A file would work great at removing these burrs. After we get it all deburred up, we're going to wash the halves. We used Simple Green as a cleaner, and also Dawn dish soap we've used. Fill these up with soap and water and kind of just scrub on them until there isn't anything left in them. Make sure they're good and clean. Depending on what was in these barrels, you're going to want to clean them more than others. Now let's start talking about how we're going to build and assemble these things. For the example that I'm going to use, we're going to be doing a 3-barrel build. So it's 1.5 barrels. You can do the same thing with just 1 full barrel and just have 2 sections, or you can use 4 sections with 2 barrels. So the length of these barrels that we're using are 33 inches. So if I have 33 inches times 3 plus a spacer between the two of 3/4 of an inch, which is the 1 by, that's going to give us a length of 100.5 inches. So for your build, you will do the length of your barrels, make sure you measure your barrel for this, times the quantity, plus your spacer times that quantity to get your length of 2 by. Okay, so here's how we put these guys together. We're going to use these 1 bys, and the 1 bys are going to be cut to the length of the width of the barrel. So measure the width of your barrel, in our case 23 inches. So we will attach the 1 by flush with the edge of the top of the barrel, putting screws through the barrel into the wood here. Make sure the screws are short so they don't go all the way through. I suggest using about a 3/4 inch length screw, and these style screws like this are perfect for this. Next, we're going to attach the second half of the barrel to this half of the barrel by doing the same thing from that side. Keep repeating this to however many times you have barrels. What you're going to end up with is multiple barrels stuck together, but they're going to be pretty flimsy, so be careful with them here. Now, depending on how many you used, it'll change your length. For me, I used 3, so the 3 lengths of the barrels plus the widths are going to total out to 100.5 inches. So I'm going to cut my boards to 100.5 inches. Now that I have my 100.5 inch boards, I've got to attach them to the sides, so I will hold them flush to the top and I will thread in screws from here. Repeat the same on the other side, and I have supports on the side. Now I just have to figure out the width across with barrels and 2 by so I can put caps on the ends. So I've got 26 inches total. So I'm going to cut 2 bys to 26 inch length, and I'm going to attach them to the barrel from this side, and I'll also throw some screws in from the end to attach to my long boards. Repeat this step on the other end. Now you have a frame all the way around it. These are a lot more sturdy now. Next, we've got to create the legs for this thing. So I need to know how high do I want this. So I'm going to figure out based on when I'm standing, at what point do I want to be bending over. So somewhere around your waist level is good. If you want a little higher, you can go higher. If you want it shorter, you can go shorter. For me, I'm going to pick 32 inches. So for this, I'm going to use pressure treated just because it is going to make contact with the ground. So I'm going to use some pressure treated 2x6. So what we need to do is create these L's with these 2x6s. So you can just set them up and then screw them together. 3 screws across the body of those will work pretty well. And then we're going to attach them to these corners like this. So here we've got these things are already built up together. We can throw some screws in here and in here to attach to the 2 bys that way, and then a couple in the end there. And now we're supporting that one. This is easier to do when it's built, when you're building it upside down at this point. Continue to attach these legs just like this all the way around. And then in this animation we're showing it right side up, but obviously you could be putting this together a lot easier upside down. Next, we will have to flip it over to show you how we put the supports on. So basically you're going to have the same lengths repeated, and you're building another frame below the barrels for support. So your 2 26-inch lengths, you're going to need to attach them so that they're pretty even with the bottom of the barrel. So you're going to put those in there and attach them like that. You can attach those from the inside to the 2x6. Next, you're going to use your longer boards. You're going to stick them in there, attaching them through the 2x4 to the leg, repeating on both sides till you have your frame around the bottom. Next, what we're going to need to do is measure across the longer sections and determine that width so that we can cut some supports under the barrels. So it's 23 inches, so I'm going to go ahead and cut my 2x4s or 2x6s at 23 inches. What I need to do here is place them in, holding them against the barrel, and then screw it through the longer 2x into the support 2x. Then hold the other side down, do the same, and repeat all the way across until you finish all 3 supports. There you go. You've built this part. The next thing you want to do is flip that over and drill in some small drain holes. You don't want the dirt to go through, but you do want water to get out so it doesn't overflow and kill your plants. When you fill this, I do recommend putting some gravel in the bottom of the barrels before you start adding dirt, just to give a little bit of drain area. Alright, so you guys built this raised bed using these recycled barrels. The next thing is going to be to trim them. I like to use these fence boards. Fence boards are very inexpensive, and it's pretty simple to use these to trim these up. So basically, I just cut them to the length of the distance between your upper 2x and your lower support 2xs, and then I tack them on here with finishing nails. The top parts I just rip fence boards, and then I can cover all the 2x that's exposed. So all that standard better fir is covered up. So as you see here, this is the upper part where we rip this down, and you can see we tack this in place, and then between the barrels as well, we're tacking to the 1x to cover up, and this tucks under on both sides so it's centered on there. We put the trim all the way around, so the ends also have the trim on them. You can see I've left this one exposed so you can see that 2x under there, but then we would cut a piece that would fit inside that too. So this is an excellent way to reuse these barrels. These barrels are going to be used in industries and then have to be disposed of, either recycled or thrown out, hopefully recycled. But this is a great way to repurpose these barrels. I got these barrels for free because they were just going to throw them away. You can pick them up for very cheap at a lot of places. This is a great way to build these kinds of raised beds versus this style here, which is just pressure treated 2x12 with pressure treated legs on it. For one, the pressure treated materials put off chemicals to your food, so it's not great for a garden bed with food grown in it. If you're just doing flowers or something, it's fine, but for food, it's not such a great idea. So you have to do additional things like line it. So this is lined with a food grade liner so that I can still plant veggies in this bed here. I've done that, I've built this, but this is a better system for the environment because I'm repurposing something. So hopefully this helped you guys out. You learned how to build these, or how to split the barrels at minimum to do whatever repurposing you're going to do with them for that. If you guys got something out of this video or just enjoyed it, make sure you hit that thumbs up. And go ahead and subscribe too. We're going to have lots of great videos teaching different things we're doing in the garden or in the pond, because we've got all these water features around the property also. We'll also be doing stuff with chickens and tortoise things. So there's lots of stuff going to happen on this channel. So go ahead and subscribe, hit that bell.